say anything else to yourself. Welcome to the test run of our video blog. This is our personal video, David B. Cappiello and Michael F. Collins. And this is possibly going up on YouTube and my website, and possibly Michael's. This is a test run, and a test run only, so please forgive any errors and or omissions and or goof-ups. If the camera falls on the floor, hopefully you'll forgive us. It looks like there's a UFO about to land, so before that happens, I'll turn the microphone over to Michael to discuss what he thinks of the upcoming elections, November 2008.
Well, I guess like a lot of Democrats, I'm concerned that the Democrats are not responding to the right-wing Republicans. The right-wing Republicans are out there distributing lies. For example, the lie about the Barack Obama's comment about the pig. Something the Democrats could point out, they said, Barack Obama said the other day he's only going to respond using troops, not making things up. John McCain only a few years ago said that George W. Bush and his tax cuts were a disgrace to the nation. It was rewarding, giving the public's money over to billionaires, and he condemned it and opposed it. Now, all of a sudden, that he's running for president, he wants the endorsement of the right wing, so he's switched. He's switched, and he's totally in favor of making these tax cuts to the billionaires permanent, and even creating new tax cuts for corporations that are sending jobs overseas and taking them away from Americans, and also the billionaires, while the middle class under his plan gets nothing. At the same time, several months back, there was a proposal, a bill that would have provided GI benefits, benefits to veterans of the current Iraq War, similar to the benefits that were given to World War II veterans. But John McCain said that he was going to oppose that, even though he likes to say that he's so identified with the military in this country and can relate with them.
Claims to be a maverick.
Right. He is opposed to that because he said it would cost too much money, which shows that John McCain cares more about George W. Bush's billionaire friends than he does the American soldier, the average soldier coming back from Iraq, maybe with no hands, maybe with no limbs or feet, maybe with serious psychological damage, maybe ruined for the rest of their lives. But John McCain says we cannot afford that, but the United States and its public can afford the tax cuts for the billionaires, George W. Bush's friends.
I think also you need to consider the universal health care issue. Each year, more and more millions of Americans go without health care. They drop their private health insurance or lose their job and run out of COBRA, and they can't afford health care, quality health care. And therefore they get even more sick, and they wind up in the emergency rooms and are a burden on the emergency room staff, when many times it's too late to be treated for the illnesses which could have been prevented to begin with, had there been national government-funded single-payer universal health care. And I think, I'm as you know, we're both Obama supporters. Although admittedly he was not our first choice for the Democratic nomination. Dennis Kucinich would have been, because Dennis supports single-payer, government-funded universal health care, Medicare for all. That's the only way to get the for-profit motive out of the system. Get rid of the shareholders, get rid of the CEOs with making billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And Obama's not going to quite do that, although hopefully he will come up with some sort of compromise health plan where we get something that's somewhat subsidized for those who can't afford it, and possibly laws preventing the pre-existing condition exclusion clauses and the like. This country's really hurting, I think, and certainly in the last 8 years, as Michael's visual frustrations show, we have suffered. We personally have suffered as gay community organizers. We've suffered civil liberties violations on a personal level. We've seen and heard of others who have suffered civil liberties violations on a personal level. We're talking Patriot Act stuff. We're talking people being stopped at airports simply because their last name is on the list. People who are U.S. citizens, born U.S. citizens, are not from the countries that we're currently fighting against. And also people, one young woman who is involved in environmentalism is on a list, and she is searched at airports. We haven't flown, I think, since 2004, so we don't know what is in store for us. Hopefully nothing, but we suffered certainly violations during the times that we were organizing meetings and programs for the gay community in Connecticut and other places in the United States. We know there were undercover informants and the like. And why do we have that when supposedly there are terrorists after us? Instead, we have domestic spying, violations of the First and Fourth Amendments, to the Bill of Rights, to the U.S. Constitution, the Bible, so to speak, the secular Bible of this country. You had Amy Goodman of Democracy Now!, who was arrested simply for asking questions after her producers were arrested outside the Republican National Convention. They were simply doing their First Amendment protected activities as reporters and producers of Democracy Now! They were reporting on the protests. Unfortunately, we're not really able to attend protests. In some ways, I regret that. I wish we could, but in other ways, I don't, because I see that some of the news reporters and producers actually came out of the police stations bloodied, and falsely charged. The producers of Democracy Now!, I believe, are being charged with felonies under terrorism laws simply for engaging in the freedom of the press, which is protected by the First Amendment. We also had, I believe, an Associated Press photographer. Is that true, Michael?
That is correct. This administration, George W. Bush's administration, is trampling on the First Amendment. All of the news media are living in fear of what they broadcast and what they publish. Everyone should contact PBS and buy the DVD of the video on the Bill Moyers show. It was an hour-and-a-half special on the run-up to the Iraq War and how the press was intimidated and manipulated. For example, MSNBC required 2 pro-George W. Bush, pro-Iraq War interviewees for every single liberal who appeared on their telecast. And in many cases, on many of the broadcasts, on many of the networks, most of the networks in fact, no liberals or opponents appeared during the run-up to the Iraq War. Even the New York Times and the Washington Post, familiar whipping boys of the right wing in this
Phil
country.
Donahue. Phil Donahue was canceled because of
that's right. His telecast was canceled just shortly before the invasion of Iraq occurred in March 2003.
And I think Phil Donahue has not, as far as I know, does not have a television show. He's in retirement.
So I've been saying, and I know David is even sick of hearing me say